we're talking about all of this, it seems like the government is just creating narratives. I mean, that doesn't seem to us. We know the government's creating all these narratives, right? And using all these different things like these cutouts and different stores, and who knows what cults have been created by the government, who knows what murderers, what they do. We know what they do with Waco. We know they infiltrate these cults as well. So
Oh
like
man, I
when,
got a different story on Waco, brother. After you sent me
oh
spiraling
really?
due to our last, yeah,
Well,
I
listen.
discovered this 3 page, well, it's like a 100-page report in 3 portions. It's called the Wilcher Report, and
Mm,
it was sent to Janet Reno, the Attorney General at the time,
yep.
by an individual named Paul Wilcher, who's an attorney for these CIA operatives, significantly this one individual by the name of Gunther Russbacher. All
Mm,
right, and this guy was apparently a covert CIA operative running black bag operations domestically, and was brought in on first of all, Navy SEALs tipped him off on uh, what truly apparently happened at Waco, transpired at Waco.
mm,
And this is an entirely alternative theory that was presented. And but beyond that, it's interesting because Paul Wilcher reaches out to this individual operative, Gunther Russbacher, whose life is in danger apparently at this point because one of the members of his covert operational team had essentially began to blow the whistle, and it was against his orders at the beginning of it. I forget the actual excruciating details of it all because I'm new to this thread of
mm.
information, but it's all so fascinating and to me seems very credible. And within also within just sort of the concept of plausible alternative theory, it does fill in some very significant holes that make more sense to me
Hmm.
now with this kind of benefit of hindsight, obviously, in this newly found information. But the point being is that this individual, Gunther Russbacher, this covert operative, had apparently Paul Wilcher, by the way, this who became his attorney, who was apparently a part of the October Surprise Task Force, right, with George Bush Sr. and the hostage crisis.
Yeah.
And so all of this had to do with Iran
Oh.
Contra. That's what this all boils back down to. And I think that once you realize like Iran Contra ties into like the whack and hunt um, um, uh, whack and hunt perm index, right? These private organizations in the private sector that are clear cutouts for the CIA
Can you
and
describe what those
intelligence
things are
apparatus.
real quick?
Do what?
Can you describe what those things are that you just referenced?
Yeah, Whack and Hunt is such a crazy organization, honestly, because you if I didn't even realize until I started covering Omar Mateen and the Pulse nightclub shooting, and
Yeah.
I also, dude, it's crazy, and I
Yep.
found out that apparently, when it boils down to it, on the Cabazon Indian Reservation, there was this. So keep in mind that you know, Whack and Hunt, right? This private security contractor. It's very interesting because they got this huge contract, right? At the huge State Department contract, right? And it's very interesting because it was like set records at the time. And by the way, uh, this organization was created by former FBI, former intelligence, right, operative who's running the organization, who had a signed picture of George Bush Sr. in his office, right?
Wonderful.
And I think it was George Wackenhunt was his name,
Hmm.
and yeah, so but it is crazy because I found out about this. And keep in mind, Sherry Seymour is a journalist that many people have fed jacketed recently. I've realized that I didn't understand. I think it was Richard Booth or someone that I very much value their work and a lot of their research. But I believe someone within the context of who has done a lot of wonderful research on the Oklahoma City bombing was basically pointing to the fact that Sherry Seymour seems to have some sort of spook background with ties to intelligence, but she still does provide a very interesting window into the Cabazon Indian Reservation and
Right.
how effectively the intelligence apparatus was utilizing these Indian reservations to run covert basically run covert operations. They were flying in illegal Mexican nationals to produce and cook methamphetamines on the reservation, right?
What?
Yes, and this is in the 90s. And
Hmm.
so After around 10 years of exploiting the Cabazon Indian Reservation, finally a few honest sheriff's deputies and grand jurors came together to form this organization called Decency in Government. And they proceeded to file a lawsuit against the Attorney General of California, the governor, and the director of the FBI for dereliction of duty by knowingly allowing and facilitating drug trafficking and smuggling operations in the area, specifically Central California. So several Indians claimed that they had been forced to participate in some of these criminal actions by local sheriff's deputies, essentially exploiting them as slave labor to produce certain drugs.
Hmm.
Operatives flying small planes in the area using the reservation to smuggle in drugs from Latin America. So that's another aspect of like with Fort Bragg, they were smuggling heroin from Thailand, and they were just it was called the Cadaver Connection, and they
Wow.
were apparently through the coffins of dead MPs, they were actually putting they were it was basically bagged up heroin that they would put into the cavities of the MPs, so it would be in the body themselves,
Hmm.
and they would have a specific tag on those caskets that were actually and they would be met right at with by
For
the
what
covert
purpose? Like,
operatives.
what were they doing with it? Were they infiltrating some other gang or something with this, or just
They were they
unleashing
were
it?
using this heroin to legitimately just smuggle it domestically throughout the US using compromised narcotics investigators from specifically the Fayetteville, North Carolina Police Department. There was a huge section of the narcotics officers who were definitely compromised and working hand in hand with the MPs at the time to effectively run this covert domestic smuggling operation, utilizing again local chapters of cult organizations like the Process Church was actually directly affiliated with this at Fort Bragg. As far as the Helena Stokely was, it's a crazy connection, but
So,
she's a criminal informant, and
okay.
she exposed a lot of this. And effectively, Prince Beasley was one of the detectives in North Carolina at the time,
Is this a
and he
money making scheme then? Or is it
well,
like
I
a
think not
government
only that,
project?
but I mean, consider what inevitably occurred was they were ratcheting up the private, prison and industrial complex as
Mm-hmm.
well. And so it's
Mm-hmm.
really a layered operation where it's kind of like the state just it's another window into what the state does best, right? The self-licking ice cream cone,
Yep.
justifying its own existence.
Right.
And in reality, obviously, they are to blame for the fentanyl crisis as well, right?
Oh,
You look at
100%.
cartel land. I mean,
100%.
they've been working hand in hand with the cartels to manufacture and not only bring in Chinese fentanyl for how long?
Yeah.
I mean, what about Operation Fast and Furious? Like,
Exactly what I was
you
just
know,
thinking. Yep. When you're talking about bringing drugs in, I'm like, oh wow, it's like the way things we do with guns into Mexico. But Obama had no scandals, so I don't know what that is. It's his
like,
fiction.
man, I'm
um,
telling you, brother,
it's so wild.
it's
So like, okay, so now we can see that's like a window into these operations, and like you just said, it's kind of it's terrifying. The web, because it's not just a money making. It's not just so this guy can make some money. He's getting some cheap heroin in the country. It's then like they throw it into the communities, get people addicted, then they fill the prisons, make the money off the prisons, and then they got slave labor. And then they're also flying in illegals to make illegal drugs. So it's like
it's
nothing
so
is
crazy.
real, nothing is exists, but it's all happening and it's being pumped out into the country to destroy you and to enrich themselves. So okay,
Right.
when it comes, there's a part of me that's just like I'm gonna avoid the serial killer topic forever to do this every time you come on, where like we're just gonna talk about one thing, but I'm
It's what
just.
I just did to Nephilim Death Squad too, dude. Like, unfortunately I go and then they're like, "Hey, you got to come on and do a part 3 now."
That was
I'm like,
perfect.
"Hell yeah."
Yeah, it's a good scheme, dude.